people are scarred psychologically, definitely spiritually, because a lot of them leave. And many of us have the stories that we contemplated suicide.
Dr. Jerry Stephenson is a former Southern Baptist minister who rode out of the closet and into the light. He is here to share his story of how he escaped the ex-gay ministries.
And then my mom got born again, and we started going to an Alliance church. And that's kind of where, we started going to church on, Wednesday nights, Sunday mornings. It was something I was brought up with. And then when I went to college, of course, I accepted that it was the inerrant Word of God, and you didn't question it. Even going to Bible college and to seminary, you didn't question, what the Bible said. I was living in Miami, and I went to Fort Lauderdale to meet with a guy by the name of Tom Rogers and start counseling with him, and that was with a group called Worthy Creations. At Worthy Creations, what we would do, we would come in and we would meet as a group, men and women all together. And we would start off singing some songs, then we would, have prayer, then we would split up. The women would go in one group, the men would go in another group. And this is the thing that you would hear over and over every week. How we had fallen, how we were so sorry, and we're not going to do it again. And week after week after week, this is what you dealt with.
So sort of a revolving cycle of, quote, sin.
Right. And then, of course, the people running the group would say, they don't struggle anymore, they're no longer gay, Jesus has healed them. But, there was just something about it that bothered me.
They were essentially lying.
Of course.
So they were wanting to present a front of change when in fact no change was occurring.
Right. And that's what I picked up on. And then when I realized that I wasn't changing, and here I was counseling people, and I thought, this is not working. When I went to Key West, and I'm an associate pastor of First Baptist Church, and I started doing counseling with the men in Key West that were coming to the church that were struggling. And that's where I woke up.
And at any point did this seem to be working for anybody?
No. And that's what I started to then, when I came out of the closet, I started doing my research. And then I started meeting people all over the country that were sharing the same story that I was saying, and that was, I'm not changing. I'm not changing. I was contemplating suicide. Actually, I bought the pills. And it was actually a minister that walked into where I was working at and started talking to me, and I didn't take the pills that night. So I'm one of many who have contemplated it, but then there are those who've, unfortunately committed suicide.
So what I'm hearing is this whole conversion therapy and ex-gay ministries is so psychologically damaging to
definitely,
people.
Definitely.
That people actually want to take their lives because the lie they are sold is something that doesn't work and harms them.
Right. When I had the privilege of meeting Pray for Bobby, the mother, the book and the movie about his life. And she was sharing with me, she was a Southern Baptist, and she kept telling me, he was going to go to hell, he was going to go to hell. Well, he went on top of an overpass and jumped in front of a semi. And of course, with Worthy Creations, Tom Rogers, who started the group, ended up divorcing his wife and leaving. Well, that was the start of people starting to say, whoa, if the founder has left, what's that saying? And that's where I began to question. Well, and if I would have got married, not only does it scar me, but then it's going to scar my wife, my children, and it goes on and on. So thank God I never got married. But I got those that come and see me, they've been married for 30 years, 40 years, all of those years that they lived a lie, and now they're trying to be themselves. as a senior citizen, and it's tough. Well, my personal experience was, I can remember as a Southern Baptist minister that I would every weekend be up at my altar praying to God. I wouldn't look at another man. And it was continuous and continuous. But it took me time to realize, 15 years of course, to finally wake up and realize who I was. That I was a gay man, I was a Christian, and I could accept both. You gotta realize, when I left the Southern Baptist Church, I lost everything. I lost my job, I lost people that supposedly loved me, found out they didn't, And there's where I started to say, I gotta love me first. You go into one of these ex-gay groups, you spend 5 years, 10 years, and on. You get out of that, you got years of layers that you gotta work through, psychologically, spiritually, to get yourself to a place where you realize you're okay for who you are. When I counsel people, it's a process. I went into therapy for a year with a minister who was very open, and he learned a lot from me, and I learned a lot from him. And after a year of therapy with him, he says, we gotta tell your story. So he called the Sun Sentinel, and he knew them very well. And they came out, and Damon Adams did an article called Soul Searching Southern Baptist Minister Comes Out of the Closet. And I thought, okay, I don't mind doing that story. Well, they called me the next day screaming and yelling that your article just went around the world in 2 hours and hit every major newspaper across the world.
What was that like, from being closeted fundamentalist in the Southern Baptist Church to being known worldwide for being out?
Yeah. Well, my parents were on vacation in Ohio, where we're originally from. My parents are coming home. They're walking down the Fort Lauderdale terminal. My mom's best friend's running down the terminal with this article that says, you won't believe what's happened. And of course, they see the article. They get home. The answering machine is just filled with messages from the Southern Baptists. This can't be true. What's going on? And that's where my journey took off. I was liberated. I knew right then when that article came out that there is where my work was going to begin. And I remember when I did the Phil Donahue Show, and that guy got in my face, he said, you're going to hell. And I said, no, I'm not. And I quoted Romans 8:39 to him. Paul says, for I am convinced that neither death nor life nor angels nor principalities nor height nor depth nor any created thing plus you can separate me from the love of Christ, who is my Lord, my Lord. I left him standing there. You didn't know even what he can say to me. Because I realized the damage and the hurt. And I can't bring back those people who ended their life. Can't. I can't. All I can do with their loved ones, and I do, I wrap my arms around them and I love them. That's all I can do. I can't do anything else. Some churches are beginning to open their eyes and their ears and their minds to the fact that we are wonderfully made in God's eyes. My advice to anyone who's looking at the ex-gay ministry, run away from it. When people get the truth, it's amazing what it does. It sets you free.